Which is to provide the community with an update on my super.
Hi, members of the Board of Education. My name is Francois Barkham. I'm a physics teacher at the high school, and I'm the first vice president of the HHCA. On behalf of the HHCA, I'd like to thank you for your decision to table the discussion of reorganization of the elementary schools until December 2023. A decision of this magnitude requires transparency, communication, and discussion among the various stakeholder groups. Some of the board members in their recent comments expressed their dissatisfaction with the process used during the initial adoption of the present plan. I would suggest that your decision now allows you time in order to do better than that. You now have time to survey the community and staff about their attitudes about the various models that could be proposed. You could then publish the results so everyone would know what the opinions of the parents and other stakeholders of the district are. You now have time to gather data about the present plan. We've just started state testing in many of the schools, and you can get those numbers to compare them to previous years. You now have time to allow administrators to generate more detailed, models how the various plans might be implemented and what their associated costs would be. Detailed transportation plans could also be developed, and these two would help inform discussion on the various models. You now have time to form committees of stakeholders with more community members from various neighborhoods in the district, even those without school-age children who might have an interest in tax rates and the overall budget. If you would like the results of these committees to be reported directly to the board or broadcast to the community, that is also your prerogative. You now have time to hold multiple public forums at various times and locations, not just one-way comments made at Board of Education meetings. The HHCA and other unions, I imagine, are here willing to work with the board to figure out how to offer the best education for yours and some of our children. Please use our knowledge and our experience to help you make the correct decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Walsh.
Hi, just good evening. Just a couple of quick things. Having questioned the board in advance from the last meeting, I do want to thank the board for the decision regarding last week or grade year banding and what the board is going to do. Appreciate the determination that the board made in taking time to actually consider issues. To the extent that the board does look for community assistance on that. Nothing else having transitioned 7 times between the buildings in 13 years as a student, and happy to volunteer my time. Otherwise, I have a couple of quick points. First, with regard to the budget, the idea of the budget being available in the library is one that probably predates computers, given the shallowness of the paper weight that the budget is in. It would be helpful if the PDF was available and people could go to the district website and just click on it and find it. Didn't see it there, may have missed it, but that would make it much easier than everyone comes to the library. Second, there's on the consent agenda of BOCES contract today for $600,000 for computer assistance. The contract references being able to continue to lease the equipment after the initial 600 plus interest is paid off. The post or the technology presentation back in January, the posting is going to be at this looking for service, not equipment. So what I'm not clear on is whether this is an additional posting contract or something. I can just clarification on that. Finally, after the last board meeting, there was, based on rumor, apparently the number of probationary teachers who did not have their contracts renewed. What happened and what its role is with regard to the budget is unfortunately a source of rumor because there was a definite lack of clarity in the budget presentation. Would appreciate if the board clarify tonight the number of probationary teachers impacted, the impact on the high school curriculum, and the impact on Blue Mountain curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. No, we'll keep that. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we're moving on. That's it for the speech. We're moving on to the consent agenda. Does anybody have anything to pull? Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Right. I'm sorry. Can I have a second? All in favor? All in favor? Okay. I know it is weird when you're in a straight line. All right, we believe we have one donation that was pulled off the consent agenda for review. Okay. A parent has donated a fish tank and 6 fish, approximately $500 for the Furnace Elementary School lobby, which is awesome. They currently have it in the fish tank and fish, so we're making a full clearance. That's wonderful. Can I have a motion to approve the donation? Volunteer. Second? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Great. Okay, so now we're at the superintendent's report.
I was going to address these items anyway.
Sure.
Take it up. That's all. And so, since I was going to do that anyway,
It might be a feedback loop from the speakers.
I'll just
Yeah, you leave it right there. That's fine.
I was going to address those, but I'm just wondering if you want to just deal with the whole contract question. That on the 600,000.
I thought that during our technology presentation, we made it very clear that a lot of the money was going to be on proposals. It was very clear. So yes, it's not only services.
What we're trying to do is, as part of the budget process, is move as much as we can of things that we've been doing in the past and we've been spending money outside of BOCES by putting it through BOCES. There's state aid available, and our state aid is around 35–40%, 40%. So it's a sizable amount. So on, say, 600, you'll probably see 240 in revenue the following year. So it's always paid the year after. We can certainly look at having a PDF available. It's not a big thing to put on one page. I see we can do that. So we take care of that. On the questions relative to the staff layoffs and so on, all along we had indicated that what we would do is take a capital examination and look at where enrollment has decreased, particularly at the high school level over the years, and look at a way of reducing staff in order to bring about savings to the district and to the budget. So first and foremost is the number was 10, if that's what the number that the question I was asked. And because of the union contract that asks for notification by April 15th, and you may or may not be aware of, but we did put a retirement incentive out that the teachers union agreed to. We have it out with several of our units. And it was only the timing of it that, which we gave a 30-day period for, was getting it out on April 5th and having it returned by May 5th. it didn't allow us to actually project in the budget process, just what the savings would be. So of course, there's going to be savings. Budget was put together. There is a final number of 88.1, I think, or 2 million. In that, any savings that will come out, we will see return to either fund balance at the end of the year and or either that or applied to the following year in order to keep next year's tax rate down. So it's not that we didn't account for it, it's accounted for it in that way. The 10 layoffs, according to the way process is done is by 10 areas and then by seniority. And so although we looked at reducing staff of 10 at the high school level, let's, by example, choose a math teacher, and the lowest member of in that tenure area in 7 through 12 in math may be located at middle school. That's why you saw effects hitting middle school. So there were layoffs. They were at the secondary level. They were at the high school where the reductions were needed. In terms of that, it simply means that if that's the person that goes out, then somebody from the high school math department would have to move to the elementary, to this middle school position. In the end, I want to say this clearly, there was never an intent to reduce any programs, and that's not what we did. We simply reduced staff that were in excess due to enrollment decreases, and so our class size, and the board had indicated several months ago when I first arrived here that we were going to go back to the board policies that were in place prior to COVID. And so all that did was allow us then to move some of the staff members around and look at enrollment and then say in the end that everybody moved to those numbers, where would the reductions be? But I also say as a cautionary note that even though it's 10, I started a review, which I promised I would do. Once all of the counts came in, so the high school principal and each of the department heads, the instructional leaders, have been arranging to come in to see me to review the enrollment and what it looks like, because as we did today. And as a result of those meetings, there will be obviously a give and take based on the way the enrollment is going. And so some of those numbers may in actuality wind up decreasing. But I went with the best we could do with the numbers we had in hand. And again, because of the union contract that indicated sending layoff notice to by April 15th, I had erred on the side of caution by making sure that we had enough of them in there and it would be easier to recall them and put them back as soon as we knew when the budget process was completed and the schedule was set up, that we had indicated that certain people might receive, again, last in, first out. Well, obviously last out, first in, first out, last in, just the other way. And that's what we're in the process of doing now. So by the time all this settles down in June, we will have a number and we will know. And as I said to the board earlier, we will monitor this and we will report to the community just in fact, what will the savings be? And you'll know it upfront and then we wound up putting into the budget process. So you'll know at the end of the year that you have that money aside in order to apply to the next fund balance. So there was a fund balance applied, it's in the budget book of 2.59 million. And my goal would be that through the layoffs, teachers, teaching assistants were another area we looked at, as well as the retirement incentives where some people may be going out of positions that don't have to be replaced. Those savings should equal to at least a 2.59 or better. And that's the goal. I mean, it's working right now. I can't report on what's exactly happening at this moment. I mean, I know numbers, but I don't want to read it into the record, only because May 5th comes and that's when we have to make the decision. I can say this, that in the teacher one, we had an agreement that we would have to hit a $1 million savings of the thing to be fully executed, and we would know that on May 5th. I can say to you as we speak today and checking the record this morning without verifying through the business office, just looking at salaries and approximately a 30% on fringe benefits, because that's what we calculate. We are a hair under 1 million. So I'm confident we will hit the $1 million mark, and that will go into play, and then the rest will happen in a similar manner again weeks later after May 5th, because those rollouts with the other groups were later, and those deadlines come later, so we probably know by the end of the. And everything else, by the way, just besides our being consumed by budgeted, everything else is moving along well as far as the end of the year. We're in the midst of celebrations and things expressing student work. We're in the middle of state testing that was mentioned earlier, which is at the elementary level, plus high school and all our moving up to all of that occurs later in June. So we're on our way doing all of those things. We've been returning to business as usual. And I'm confident that we will wind up in the right place at the end of the year.
I have a follow-up question. So in the programming in the middle school, potentially we might see a high school teacher move down, but there will be no change in the programming at the middle school.
Right.
And at the high school, from what I understand, some programs may not be offered every single year. But I also understand that certain, there's tracks or progressions. So if you've got a rising 12th grader who's expecting the next class next year, are we guaranteeing that that's going to be held? Because it's a different thing to say for the incoming ninth graders that there's different tracks, there's different options, but for the current 9th or 11th graders, they have an expectation. And I want to make sure that we're delivering.
We are,
Okay.
and the way the pattern will work, I just want to simply mention on, even if you're trying to implement that. So if I took a year like right now, which next year is obviously like the odd year, is the 23-24 school year. In that odd year, we might, let's pick some AP art, since we call it art. And the numbers may be on the lower side. So let's say we have 12 or 13 and we want to see this there. The following year, we know that's a lower number, and that's probably not a one. But it was the wrong one, so apologize. It's in my mind, I'm looking at it, and I know that's not going to happen. But anyway, as long as you're aware that I'm not picking the right part, I only did it both years. But anyway, let's just do that. When we get to the following year, we wouldn't offer it, and then the following year we would offer it. And what happens when you back it up like that? The 12 will wind up being 20 or 30, and then we'll be back at what we consider to be normal numbers, well within our contract language, but being more efficient in terms of what we deliver, so that we don't wind up having extra sections with small numbers in the classroom, which is just as you add every 5 sections with the teacher, you take an average, teacher salary and so on, we might look at 100 or 100 a quarter in terms of benefits and all. So it adds up quickly. If you have 5 or 6 over, it's we're dealing with $500,000. So that's really the plan, and that's how we're operating.
Thanks for clarifying. So you mentioned the budget season. Do we have any dates and times for budget forums available yet? for the community?
I believe we do have another one. Do we have any?
The budget forums were,
For the budget hearing is next, May 3rd.
okay.
That's the next.
But I remember like last year, remember you and Target or something, Enrique, how you hosted 8 different ones, and no one showed up, you or Joe and me. Are we doing that many this year? Or are we only having the 1 3?
I don't
We don't know
know
yet. Okay.
Let me just say by invitation, if there's a group that would like to entertain us, I'm sure we would gladly put the road show on them and come out and visit, speak to any group in town that would like to do that. I would rather have an invitation than I would have an audience than for us to simply show up somewhere and then no one shows up. It's a waste of your time, my time, and there's a lot we could be doing. So we're very willing to do it, and we invite any group, any social groups, any groups that want to hear about it. We'll arrange for it. My other district, we would even go into people's homes, as long as you can bring a group of 8 or 10 friends around, and gladly we do that too. I don't mind that at all.
But as of right now, May 3rd is the
Budget
budget
hearing.
hearing. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I believe we can delay this 1 or 2 just 1 year for time to take office.
Sure, yeah, we could do that. That's a good idea.
And then out there, that way it's not distracting you guys to be working, but you don't want to chat, contact. Because last year we really did host, I think, maybe meetings and not a single. Oh, it was, it was a lot of time to sit around a library meeting, and not working. Okay, anything else for your?
No, I'm fine.
All right, with that, we'll move on to our presentations, discussions for this evening, which is centered around our Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES, for election and administrative budget vote.
So, yeah, I want to say a few words. You're a part of the Board of Department of Educational Services. Ours is Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES. They're located, as you know, in Bucktown. In the state, there are a number of the medical companies that they're on, they're throughout the state, and they're set up as boards of cooperative educational services, meaning that whenever you have a program that you wish to do that might have small enrollment, or provide a program that you just physically can't possibly do at your particular school district, you can do it in conjunction with another, and as long as it's at least 2 school districts, you can then get state aid on it, and you run it through BOCES. The contract we just spoke about tonight with the purchase of equipment is just another area where we work in cooperation with BOCES, those large bids. And so we're not only the only ones buying those computers, there are others, and that is the cooperative bidding process. So that also is part of a cooperative service. And so with that, every year, we are charged an administrative fee from BOCES for its operation. So they do not have the ability to tax. And the only way they can do that is charge the participating district. So we are part of Putnam Northern West District is how many districts? 18. So I'm used to the 35 we have in some. So there are 18 of them. And so you take their budget and there's by size and so on, that they arrive at your administrative fee. And that's what we're actually voting on tonight. So we're voting on their budget, which supports us. And then later on, when we vote on our budget on May the 12th, well, 16th, May 16th, if there is an administrative line within that budget, so that's the payment that we would be making. But tonight, what the board is doing is simply approving the BOCES budget. And so there are 18 school districts, and they're actually all around the state. Today was the day for the BOCES vote, so every other school district in the state, all 700 or thereabouts. We're voting today on their BOCES budgets as well. And so what we need is a majority of the 18 in order for it to be approved. And that is the purpose of tonight, as well as the election of board members to the BOCES, which the board now has received all that information. And we do have a video.
We have a video.
To explain the program, they did a great job of video, which we have to see.
Path should reflect that. At Putnam, every student is unique. At Putnam, every student is unique, and every student's path should reflect that. At Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES, we provide learning opportunities for students that enable them to see the road ahead as a bright pathway to success. We teach and encourage students with special needs with support tailored just for them. We provide high school students with the opportunity to get an inside look into a career they might be interested in before they ever even begin to look at colleges. We help students who want to go straight into the workforce get the skills and hands-on experience they need to succeed. We provide forward-thinking professional learning for educators who want to keep current and for those who will lead districts. BOCES Career and Technical Education Center offers more than 40 programs of study in 7 career academies, including communications, hospitality, health, construction, English as a new language, and more. We constantly look to the future to determine what the labor market will be looking for in high school graduates and create programs to prepare students. We are the first in the country to offer a high school program for horizontal directional drilling, the latest technology in a trenchless and environmentally friendly method of installing underground utilities. We also offer an electric vehicle technician course. Our wide range of offerings in career and technical education include sports medicine and physical therapy, cybersecurity and programming, auto mechanics, urban forestry, and much more. New Vision's health and engineering programs provide college-bound students the opportunity for hands-on experience. BOCES special education programs offer students with a wide array of social, emotional, and learning needs the tools to help them reach their full potential. Pinesbridge is the only public school in the state to offer aquatic therapy. At Pines Bridge, Walden, and Fox Meadow schools and our programs in local school buildings, we provide supports including counseling, physical and occupational therapy, speech therapy, teachers of the deaf and teachers of the visually impaired. These services are provided in a state-of-the-art school setting, complete with music, art, technology, physical education classes, and assemblies. Because teachers never stop learning, BOCES curriculum and instructional programs provide professional learning, networking opportunities, and a clearinghouse to communicate instructional ideas and changes in state and federal education rules. A curriculum council comprising leaders from across the region identifies specific areas of focus. BOCES also offers stellar management services through Regional Safety Services and the Center for Educational Leadership. Regional Safety supports districts with health and safety issues, emergency planning, crisis response, chemical management, fire safety, and more. The Center for Educational Leadership provides professional learning for school leaders and partners with colleges and universities such as Harvard, Cornell, Bank Street, Manhattanville, Fordham, and several others. It offers programs such as the Future School Leaders Academy and the doctoral program in educational leadership. PNW BOCES IT department offers OLAS for K-12 education, the online recruitment system used by more than 600 school districts across New York and in surrounding states. Through its Action Collaborative Network, the Guidance and Child Study Center works with districts to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion through high-level professional learning. The center also helps districts support all students with consulting services in such areas as audiology, assistive technology, behavior, speech, and psychiatry, to name a few. Because learning continues throughout life, our adult and continuing education programs prepare thousands of adults for the workforce each year through literacy training and career and technical education. When districts want to get the word out, they can turn to BOCES Communications and Creative Services departments for help with messaging, videos, crisis management, and a host of other services. No matter what road they take, families, students, teachers, leaders, and districts can find their path forward to success by looking to Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES.
For the three candidates, there's no option, yeah, correct, we just order and not. Okay, so there are three, there are three seats, for the board, and there's only three candidates, so we have to just approve them. I need a motion to approve the candidates for those. Can I have a second? All in favor? And then we do the budget. All right, I need a motion to approve the Northern Westchester BOCES budget for 23-24 school year. Second. All in favor? That is the end of our agenda. Are there any committee reports for the board?
Yes, okay. I did leave early to make it out of track meet, but I can get started. So we discussed the Narcan training, additional 18 staff members were trained. So that including our nurses, 18 was 9 staff members were trained and repairing it and use of emergency. They are prepared to use it. And then we just saw that email today about it being where it's being stored in the buildings, right? Dennis, do you want to talk a little bit about that, about
I believe
Lisa?
these probably better start.
The latest in the Narcan and where we're installing it in the building.
So it'll be near the AEDs, as we discussed before, because if there is an issue and we lost it in the nurse's office, no one has access to that. So if we have the AEDs where they are located is near the gym, the boxes should be located there. I don't have authority to do that, that's just Melanie.
Right.
So, yeah, so we're still waiting for the boxes, but then we have a protocol that the nurses have implemented, so we have a sheet if someone does implement use Narcan, then there's a whole reporting sheet that we keep on file according to what we need to do for state regulations.
Anything else?
I think the only thing we wanted to, I don't know.
It's right, that one will pick it up.
So I think the only thing we wanted to mention at the meeting was our policy currently calls for 1 year recertification, but currently the New York State policy is every other year. So I think we should amend our policy to reflect the recertification to coincide with New York State Department of Health law. No sense in making people recertify quicker than is required by law. We should limit them. I don't see that. Also, there was a question, and it's down to, we should probably run it by 70 robot was a parent had asked their child took the Narcan safety course. It is now New York State certified, and wondering if they are allowed to bring the Narcan to school with them. And the response given, and this is not an official statement because I don't know we can clear it up with 70 robot, but the public health law 3309 protects civilians from administering money.
This marriage law.
And also, yes, and I guess the biggest component of this is for anyone paying attention and following at home, if you do have a circumstance that occurs that you do have Narcan on your person, and you are able to administer it to help save somebody's life, it is incredibly important to still dial 911 and report it, because what happens is Narcan is basically blocking the receptors from interacting with the opiate, which could cause the shutdown of the body's function. And then there could be more of the opiate in your body than the Narcan can counteract. So it's incredibly important to still dial 911 because you could have someone re-enter this overdose phase if the drug overpowers the Narcan. So even if you give two, they have too much, this fentanyl stuff is, floating around or whatever, it's really, really important. No matter what happens, you give Narcan, please dial 911 immediately. That's why I wanted to check with Stephanie Robot to make certain. But also Narcan is soon going to be an over the counter. If it's not already, I understand that by this summer, it's going to be an over the counter drug. You will no longer even need certification. And it's going to be something you could go to your local drugstore and just ask for it. They're going to give it to you. I think the law has passed. I'm just not sure that it is currently effective yet for over the counter distribution.
Next thing we talked about was safety drills, continuing ongoing safety drills, and then working with the district office. So we always drill our 5 schools, but we don't necessarily drill. There's not a requirement to drill the district office and the individuals working there. So working with all sheriffs to make sure that those processes are smooth. And then we went into the district-wide safety plan at a committee level, going through the changes that may either state required or suggested, so that we can get that out to the public for a public review in the next couple of weeks. And that's what I had. What else do you have?
That is
Okay.
So it sounds like the policy committee is gonna have to look over the Narcan policy to possibly tweak that. But also, we have some ideas for creating some new committees, and we actually don't have a policy about creating committees, so we need to do that also. So in the coming board meetings, you should hear a lot about different types of committees the board wants to develop and how we're going to actually establish them so that they are a real part of the district, and no matter who comes and goes from the board, that they exist. Anybody have anything else to add?
I'm speaking of a committee, this year we established a curriculum committee. It's really like a subgroup. Quarter to make sure that we're all kind of up to speed, and we've been meeting with monthly with Lisa and Margaret. This week, Dr. Lauro joined us. And it's really to teach us a little bit about because we asked a lot of questions at the table, and I think that's been really good this year. But it also helps us to understand what our children are working on, the academic goals, to let them know what we're looking to show the public and to understand about our students. And this week, it was last week, I guess, a couple of things came up, and I know they came up also at SEPTA, but I want Margaret, if you could explain the ELA pilot, because I know that people have been waiting for this.
I'll use my teacher voice.
Yeah.
So our elementary division next year will engage in an ELA pilot. That means that 2 teachers on each grade level will experience a new ELA program, reading, writing, word study. The teacher selected 2 programs into reading and wonders. We have the names of the teachers who will be piloting. The teachers who are not piloting continue with our current curriculum. I'm in the process right now of creating the process for the pilot, how we will report out to each other, how we will report out to the board about progress, in the hopes of making a recommendation to the superintendent and the Board of Education, probably early May of next year. So they will be receiving their information, boxes and boxes of goodies within the next couple of weeks. There will likely be some PD over the summer as we prepare to engage in this process during the 23-24 school year.
And then the other thing that just, that totally did change, and we learned about it, that we needed to clarify a little bit more for us, are the additions where the ABC students might be moving next year to where they are now, and there's a couple of other programs that you mentioned.
Yep, the anchor program is going into the high school. We're finding more and more that our students that are neurodivergent are really struggling. Secondary, we're focusing on the high schools. We're seeing the biggest impact right now there. We do have a plan in place to do something informally at the middle school with a speech therapist and a psychologist. However, the anchor program is a home base for students. If they have a free class period, they will be joining Mrs. Donahue, who will be moving from the middle school to the high school. And she will set up schedules. She will work collaboratively with the counselors or the classroom teachers and support them socially, emotionally, as well as academically, along hand in hand with the school psychologist and Mrs. Krakowski, who is our speech therapist at the high school. So there'll be a lot of groupings. There'll be a lot of support for students. We're finding that that's the hardest transition is from 8 to 9, and then as they keep getting older, the students keep getting older. What was your, oh, ABC. So ABC at BV, we try to put kids as many classrooms together. You want to group students that are similar, so they have more social experience, more community-based instruction, CBI as we call it. So next year, one of the thoughts on the table that I've talked to Dr. Moore about is moving the BV class over to the Furnace Woods, since there'll be more space, and allow them to have more interaction. They have access to the middle school kitchen, which all of our kids now will have access to a kitchen, which is very important with ADLs, the daily living skills. So that's our plan for next year right now. Is that it? I think we're good, right?
And maybe the counselor, they're gonna be now a counselor moving to the elementary school for transition support or something. Was that something mentioned that's up there, or did I imagine?
There is going to be, it'll be a flurry of moves the way it works. So we have a lot of counselors, school counselors at the high school and middle school, and we don't have enough at the elementary. They have a caseload, and the caseload that's recommended by New York State is about 250 to 1. And our elementary counselors are still dealing with about 450 apiece. So our goal next year is to put 1 in each building and will help with the transitions, but also there's that extra support and social emotional learning curriculum that'll be done by them. So then our counselors are not split so thinly. So right now, Mrs. Bolin is moving from 6th grade, or currently 8th grade this year. She has asked to go down to the elementary school. She's very excited to go to grades 2, 3. Which is so exciting. So we will then figure out what we're going to do with middle school for next steps.
I have a question about the anchor program. Are those students identified by staff or parent identified, or how would a student get?
Yes,
that
for
program?
all of those.
Okay,
It's also an IEP based program, so it would be based on their IEP and the needs of their IEP.
but if a parent's listening and they think, oh, that might be helpful, they can reach out.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Where does that live at the high school?
As far as,
How do the kids know to go? What phase is that?
so that's what Mrs. Donahue will do. She's very good at that. So how it'll start is they're going to their typical classes. It's when they have 3 periods. She's their go-to person.
That's what her class.
Exactly. He may push into classes too. Especially with one hard time. The noise, all of that is very difficult. Hey, Cor.
All good? I just have a quick question. So there have been a couple committees that I've been asking for a number of years, and just because we had other priorities we haven't gotten them. But I just want to make sure that they stay on your radar.
Yeah.
So one is an administrative technology one. We have a technology committee that focuses on educational technology, but we don't have a technology committee that focuses on our internal systems, on student data protection, information security, on our internal networks, our DAS service, the digital array or cell networking. So things like that, we don't have anything that looks at that kind of technology where we should make investments. So I would love for that to be focused. A second one would be an administrative risk management committee. So really looking at things like financial controls within the district, or again, controls over some of our key data, employee data, student data, how a lot of that is managed. So I think administrative risk management, administrative technology.
Yeah, I want to look at the maybe for the current and clean up for their function, what their functions are, right? And kind of revamp this. So that's great. Thank you. We also talk about what they would look like, where we have community involvement, right? Our committees that we haven't. Like our safety committee talks about actual informal safety. Things that present to the district that we can't have the public, it's dangerous, right? So there are committees that we want to bring different stakeholders into, where we can, so that's what we can. Any new business where we're on?
Facilities, I know we talked about this small groups offline, there was conversation about utilizing the buildings properly, like the bathrooms in buildings. How do we have the conversation about what grade banding groups should be reporting to which building? For example, I think there's 16 classrooms and bathrooms in DB, there's 17 in Curtis Wood, and there's 12 in Grand J. The result that we have kindergartnens with gang bathrooms and taking buddies to do it. When do we have that conversation about utilization of facilities for education?
So you might not for this coming year or for the foreseen future or for the forever future.
I guess we have acknowledged, I think, that there's an issue currently, and we're continuing the current model, so we should address whether we're okay putting kids in the wrong building. We then need to also consider the utilization of the building that we started this conversation, which would be the more long-term conversation for this December 6th. But I think that's bullshit and long-term.
But I do think that one of the committees that we're looking to create is one for what elementary school model will look like, right? And I think that it would address that concern for the future after next year, but not for September, but now for September. So for September or a discussion.
Sure. I don't know the process to make sure that.
There's really no process. I don't think there.
No, I mean,
Either-
no.
Yeah, it's for discussion, and I don't think that it's even say, unless it's something that's more to explore or present on, yeah. I don't think there's a formal way. Discussion.
Yeah, that was the beginning, I think, right? That was the initiation.
Can you be a little bit more specific, just for people who are maybe not?
Yeah, so we
in our
have
heads?
entry buildings,
Yeah.
we have Frank Jimenez, BB, Furnace Woods, we have pre-K, K and 1 in Frank G, we have 2 and 3 in BB, and we have 4 and 5 in Furnace Woods. The biggest building is Frank G, both in terms of classroom size, if I understand correctly. But it also has the fewest number of classroom capacities, and that tends to be the facility structure that is best suited for the youngest learners. So Furnace Woods is one of the smaller buildings and also has the largest number of bathrooms that have bathrooms in them. The New York State guideline is to have a bathroom in the classroom for all kindergartners, and we currently have 3 of our 7 or 8 kindergarten classrooms which are not in the, but they're operating without a bathroom in the classroom. But if we had the appropriate use of facilities for that structure, it would have made sure that 100% of those classrooms would have had a bathroom, regardless of the buildings you're being built. It's still would have put them within the guidance of the university.
And there's other issues like the community spaces, right, whatever
Yeah, the biggest gym and the biggest cafeteria in front of G with also the biggest kids.
The biggest out room.
Right.
And more, there's more black pockets than Jimmy Hall. And they have access to the high school field.
I would want to hear from our administrators, and if you guys weren't expecting this, maybe you're not prepared to discuss it tonight. But I think it would be important to hear from our administrators and hearing our concerns. And how it might work, right?
Yeah, I mean. I agree with. I mean, Dr. Zero was here for this part, but I also, I'm not quite sure how it came to be this way, right? I wasn't on board. I don't know how the buildings were selected. There was an idea in mind that we're missing for point out, yeah, right? Like, I don't know.
I think Anthony Martini, out of our facilities, had recommended a block of Ernest Woods and Frenchy, like he had suggested the utilization of facilities for each grade. I don't know why someone should have other than the one that he had laid out. That was before my time. I wasn't in on the conversation. I don't recall that being more table conversation. It was not, so I don't know why. I can't speak for choice, but I think it's importantly enough. I think it's important that we currently now discuss that, because I'm not very comfortable with the current.
Do you want to say?
I don't know, if you know, if you have.
I know in many reconfiguration processes, I think honestly, back and forth with Frankie and Ernest Woods, it was always, I think, BB 2-3, I think, if I remember correctly. I hate to speak for people who aren't here, but I'll say what I'm going to say. Initially, when the conversation got started, I recommended that pre-K, K1 be at Ernest Woods. I believe that the superintendent and other people felt that the proximity to the middle school presented kind of a one campus view for 4 through 8. And they also felt that having the pre-K1 building kind of in the center of the community balanced the extremes, both giving up something for travel. So that's the best way that I can explain it. Did I, am I missing something that?
I think that's what we've been making all along. Really, I think I've said this to multiple people before, but I felt like Frankie being pre-K K1 was really, I mean, they got there too young yet, and the upset that we're hearing from those that live on the outskirts, right? It's hard. It's hard to put your baby on a bus and send them a long distance. And I think that the majority of students do live closer to FGL in the first one. So that's kind of the my rationale. You know, it would probably have upset more people if you said, "Boy, your little ones are going to go out." So, but we are here. We are here. We are where we are now. I don't know if anybody else wants to chime in.
Well, I think that we've heard from parents that children are having accidents, and that concerns me, because young children get very embarrassed by that, they don't want to school. So any kind of avoidance issue is something that concerns me. So the question is, if you then want to put money into a building and add on bathrooms to after them for the configuration that you've now done. So, I mean, that's something that could be on the table.
I don't know if that's it on the table would work, then we end up taking room. I don't think in the BCS that's ever actually addressed in those classrooms, because you're taking too much classroom space from those classes in the front of those branching lending classes. Like that's not even part of our conversation.
But then it's a long term, we're still talking about September too, right? About,
Yeah. We keep saying not to add anybody long term, like, I don't think that is even part of our conversation, but we take up way too much classroom. Well, I guess, I mean, it could be, because I don't think we've gone that far yet. Yeah. I mean, I think these are, that's the issue, they do, and another, you know, people are grandfathered in, like, all of the in classroom. I guess what I don't understand about how this was chosen is like, at the end of the day, like, dream of having Blue Mountain and Furnace Woods work together, that's a great dream, and on the same campus. I think that's hot, that was something that was to aspire to, but when you have only 10 bathrooms at Frenchie, it's only 10 Jeremy, 16 at Furnace Woods, and 17 at BB. And you know that you have 16 at minimum sections of each. You basically put, what we basically did is we put the K1 kids in the building where we knew they weren't going to have what they needed. In the largest, the largest cafeteria, large gym, the largest everything. And I'm sure that the staff have managed with not having bathrooms, but now we're talking about having an EBC classroom there next year. That means another kindergarten class now has to go to the front hallway. Now we have 4 kindergarten classes without bathrooms. Where? That's. No, Frenchie, because you said we're adding an ABC class at Frenchie. Well, we may have more. No, then I misspoke. I'm sorry. Furnace Woods. That's my fault. Okay, sorry. I was like, oh my God. No, sorry. And the other thing is they're separated, like in the building, like the kindergartners, and this might not bother the staff. I don't know. This is part of the thing. I think they got used to it this year, but they're separated. So
You can't put them together though. We tried that. I was a principal too. We tried grade level hallway. But then you lose a section, you gain 2 sections. Eventually you end up re-spreading across the building. That's hard. It's hard to keep them.
you know, the first grade is completely upstairs, and then also downstairs.
Yeah. It's really, I mean, it's ideal. I won't lie to you. I loved it as an administrator, but it is really hard as the role of sections continues to adjust each year to make sure that you can have that, unless you want people to continually relocate. So I agree with you. It's not perfect, but you have to work with the building that you have.
I know, and that's what I'm saying, we put ourselves in that.
I don't know if we would have fit all in one hallway. It's now, and there's only 2 hallways in Furnace Woods. So, you know, I don't know that we could have all fit 9 first grade classrooms in a hallway. I don't have the classroom numbers memorized, but it's tricky for the principals to kind of lay that out and stick with it.
The vision of using Furnace Woods in the middle school as one campus, how much have we actually done that?
You have to talk to Josh and Lauren. I can't speak for them.
I want to know how much we've been able to make that vision happen. The music is where it really.
And remember, Lauren is new, so she probably doesn't have that vision yet, so she is new.
So what we do the problem is we don't have enough staff. What's been an immediate solution for a quick fix? So all kids have access to the bathroom and no one's having access to their pants. Do you put a portable? I mean, something to fix it.
Can I ask if is there any data around how many more accidents we have now versus the?
I believe I shared a document with Dr. Laurel that was directly from the nurse and Cindy, Dr. Kramer. And I believe if I'm accurate, so this was probably 2 months ago, I think, that's right.
I don't know that I actually saw it, but I remember Dr. Kramer getting the information.
And I believe in it that really the accidents are not in the pre-K, they're not, if they're, some of the kids have bathrooms in their classrooms. So we've got to be careful on how we're generalizing that, but I don't think it was any more than what they had when they had smaller sections.
The summary that I got was that the accidents were not attributed to the vaccine not being in the group. It was, you know, their pride, it happens, or they got so intertwined with their friends, they didn't want to stop them, bathroom, whatever. I think, honestly, the bigger issue is that when they do these legal accidents, like first graders or younger listeners, they have to actually leave on their own and go restroom. And then there's, you know,
But I think that's why they have a PA, right?
I don't know,
Yeah.
right? I'm not sure.
Right, so. I'm a first grader.
I can't,
I don't know that.
I don't know, I can't, I could find out for us, but I can't speak for it.
We maybe get our questions together. Right, so what questions will we have for Dr. Kramer, what will we have for all the principals?
Yeah, how can we know?
How do we make it better? I just don't want to talk about a problem that we don't really have, right? That if it's not really any different in that situation, that's not fine. It's also like work on the money side and moving along. How do we fix the problem that we actually have?
Not having questions or why the kids inside, if they want to the bathroom, how it's not. We'll see. Those kind of.
Whatever the problems are, I just want to make sure that we have real problems that we're addressing, we have data behind them. You know, I don't want to talk about conjecture.
Well, I just, Corey, I just want to tell you, I mean, conjecture is one thing, but you have to realize that you have two first grade families at the table, right? So there are not much conjecture as there are kids here.
No,
I understand what you're saying, you can't diminish that this is actually,
But from what I'm hearing, it's not that they're having accidents because they don't have a bathroom in the room.
no, I mean, and my issue is not that, honestly, my issue personally is not that it's the bathroom problem. The fact of the matter is the building is not appropriate for a 5 to 6 year old. And the other building, this building is more appropriate for 9 to 10 year olds.
Yeah, I'm happy. to
And that's
talk
where
about
I'm
that,
at.
Right, I don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
The problem that, you know, the data is not showing.
I mean, I don't know, I don't want to diminish the people that wrote in and say that what they said is not a problem. I mean, we had several people write in. Yes, I don't want, I want to acknowledge that we hear their concerns and we're looking into it. Not that the data doesn't support it, so forget it. Well, I'm here, we hear you, we're looking into it, and you're acknowledged.
No, that's absolutely fair. You know, I did see a couple of emails on that, and, you know, of course you feel for the family, you feel for the kids. But if we're talking about 2 incidents over the course of the year, is that really so much that we have to pick up and move 2 schools back and forth? Because of that issue, that's probably not the issue. I
Absolutely.
think it's more the issue of what Eric is talking about, and what Jeremy's talking about. Those are the issues.
I think it's a whole, I think there's a host of issues, and I think it would be irresponsible to try to funnel it to an issue. And I think it comes down to basically facility utilization and then the conversation could circle around all of the components that would indicate why building A is appropriate for this group and building B and building C. is appropriate. Like that's really, I don't think that any of us are gonna say that it's one thing. I think it's a multitude of problems that exist and.
I think all of the work that we are, by the way, we're working on outlining a plan for the elementary school. What do we want to call it? But like our plan is going to outline exactly the type of events, the types of committees, the types of work, all of that. So once we have that, we will share it. But I think that in those conversations, it naturally is going to come out that even if you kept your 2-year gradient, you can't keep it this way. There's so many challenges in terms of, you know, the definition is one piece of many.
So my point is, if that is true.
Yeah.
Then why do we need to wait and make more kids be in the wrong building?
So if you want me to answer that,
Yeah, in general.
you mean why we have to wait like 3 years in September again?
If we're.
Because for me, me personally, as a trustee, I'm nervous to even consider making any changes that we're going to be considering making, right? So I feel like we're here, we are where we are now, and I have made it very clear that the things that I don't like and things that I do. And I think that if we're gonna go through and do all of this great work with the different stakeholders and actually come up with, you know, whatever the plan is for the future of Penn Elementary School, I hate to make any change now and then make another change. Right, that's my worry and that's my fear. As an individual. I agree. I do think that FGL should have never been and it should be blocked, and I think it would have solved a lot of the facilities issues. But I don't know that we can make a change until we go through all of the things that we.
So maybe we should outline these things and have.
Yeah, I wonder,
To like lay it all out and then, because at the same time, we should look at the odds. If we don't think it's right and we think we're gonna make some change, we should look at how many plans are there gonna be and. With the likelihood, there's an 80% chance that we're gonna put 5 plans on the table, and only one that would leave us in the current model. You know, only one would be a model that would be K5, and there's gonna be 4 more plans that are all banding. We're all gonna agree that if we're gonna do some banding in the future, whether it's what we have or some modification, and it's always gonna put the oldest kid at rank G, then it wouldn't necessarily the likelihood of us being in a future system that allows for the oldest kids to be in a singular building would make sense. That why not just do that now?
we don't know where, you don't know what's gonna happen in December.
Right,
Yeah.
so I said, but if there's 80% chance that there's gonna be some form of this, if we're gonna be
Oh, I see.
5 plans,
I know.
then why would we, yeah, exactly right.
I want to hear,
But I don't feel comfortable telling more people that they're gonna continue. The other problem is. Furnace Woods, the parents that complain the most with the longest bus rides when the farthest out on the district from the other side of Furnace Woods. Right, those kids are the longest bus ride.
Mhm.
So having that as the youngest kid building, it makes the youngest kids generally have a much similar bus ride as opposed to a very long bus ride and then a not as long bus ride.
I want to get some feedback from the feeling about what it would look like for maybe, the first graders, the kindergartners that live out in the China and Buchanan, going all the way to Furnace Woods. I don't want to, that's not even, that's not an issue because it's only 8 miles. But no matter what you do from coming from where we live down here to Furnace Woods, only 8 miles. When you live above that to come down, okay, you're not like, yeah. It's like, I can get to Furnace Woods from here in 10 minutes, like it's 8 to 10 minutes, not that far. But when you're coming from up there down here, it's that far. So, I mean, you can ask Liz to clarify that, but yeah, what we would explain to us. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Their discussion.
I just want to make sure that I understand the board to ask here. I'm a little confused with what is the best next step for this. Like, I don't want parents at home listening and going, oh no, they're gonna move now, we just what it looks like, right? So I just want to make sure, like, is it something that this board is, like, where are we going with this right now today?
I think it's a data point for the future discussion. Like, as you get the communities together, as you start to think about what the future looks like, keep things the way they are for next year, as you're working with the communities to figure out what's the long run there. So to your point, to make changes again for this year, I think would be very, very challenging for this district. Right?
Well, I would pray that they were changing in the right direction, but we also have 2 potentially in the board members, like, we have yet to have these again, but we couldn't talk about.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So you maybe just use these as data points for discussions for the communities going forward, but don't with the changes for next week. That is fine.
And to ask the teachers if there's a simple fix.
I was gonna say, can we ask, just we have to Cindy and that's what
They have a meeting with
and yeah,
I know what
help.
Okay. This is really a Mr. Collins, Dr. Kramer. I also think to add to this, I think we need to really show parents sooner rather than later that the bus rides from above. Or and Blue Mountain are actually going to be under 40 minutes. So we have to show their bus routes. Is there a way to find out from the Liz?
What they, you're not there yet, like.
Right. Well, I'm asking because last year it was this time of year, parents got a little insight, but no concrete information, and then they waited until far into August to know what the bus routes were. And that was like tremendous anxiety with the change. So is there a way that we can get bus routes done by a nice?
And the projection and the actual were not close. So, yeah,
Okay.
right, so we need to make sure that whatever we're giving is real and practical. Not what we did. It can't be like a wishful thinking.
Right,
estimate.
yeah.
We need to
It has to
let
be
people know
closer to
that
action.
they didn't need to drive it and pause at the stops and, you know, take the long ones.
Well, something that people were also upset about last year and last summer in August was their bus pickup time was 8:15. I have to be in the bus for 45 minutes when we start the line, but little did they know, the bus was 18 minutes and we would have late time when we went to school. So I'm pretty sure the answer is you can't know what time the bus arrives to the school, but it would be awesome if parents do that. Also, I think it really was last year, just to make it out here, it resonated with me that parents did not know where their child was going first. No, that was the worst decision we would have ever made. So we need to notify somehow parents to know which building their bus is going to first, whether BB or shrinking them. So what happened was last year, these,
No, I think,
or are we not doing that?
we're trying, I think with the new proposition.
We don't have to do that?
Purchase, we're trying to avoid.
Oh, that's good. From what? Having them.
The delivery is the other. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, the ones.
Oh, okay, so what happened last year was that the children didn't get on the bus. And, there were new kindergartners, they didn't know whether they were going to be or FBL first, and they, got all upset, and it just was extra excitement that was not needed.
So, the word of course, for me, this takes a long time. Usually parents get their whole schedules at the end of August with the whole package from the principal. What pleases for me is to have it by November 15th. Anything that unfortunately, anything before that is going to be wrong.
Why? Because people who
Because
did,
it
they.
takes- Because it takes time, the drivers have to go, do the route, do the stopping. That's, because that's in addition to the day-to-day work of Liz. Liz has a day-to-day work. This is rerouting. Now, first she cannot stop until we know that the 4 buses will pass.
Yeah.
She has, on a day-to-day basis, has dismissals, has her own work. So for here, she cannot start until June.
Oh, I think we have to wait until after they vote and we know where we are at with our equipment, right? And if we need help, we'll figure out how to get help.
I tell you,
Yes.
she's already getting help. The prior, from someone from here, a community member who was, the director of transportation for 25 years, before, I came here, but he's stayed and, he's still here, and he's going to start working with this.
Do we have an expert in that? I would love to have an expert in the system, because just from what I've seen in like districts, they rely very heavily on the routing system.
Oh,
Right.
here too.
And right, so we know that 80% of our routes are pretty certain. We can do 80% of our routes with the understanding that we don't know exactly who's coming in. And there might be some changes of people moving in and out of the district. For the most part, probably 80%.
That was the meeting, but with the installers, there was a consultant that did the route. They were not regionalized, so Liz knowing the district better, wants to, I think, right, am I? No,
Well, what I'm saying is get her professional help that can help her automate this so that it's not so manual, right? So
Yeah.
No, they also may have all these. We have a routing system that they use. Carting and
then why does it take so long and I'll get the routes, because if it's fully automated, it should be a fairly quick exercise.
Yeah, I sort of agree. I'm not saying that we need it. I think August 15th, it seems a little late. I think we can have an earlier target. I'd like to know, we could.
Why don't we do this?
Yeah. talk to her.
Why don't we call bring the lead here? In our next board meeting, so she can tell. I mean, she was, Dennis Dunn, she was very concerned when we said before August 15th. So maybe she can tell you exactly why. I don't know the details. Answers like these, I'm saying, but she will know. Yeah, she would be able to say, well, I exaggerated, maybe it's July 30, or maybe no.
Or maybe we have an expert coming with her that could help her answer the question, would say, you might not know how to do this, but we could help you do this. Right, or maybe there's a better way that we don't have in this. Right, I'm just saying.
And we already have that person, but we need someone that knows and understands the streets in the community. So, there's certain streets that buses cannot go to, right? And the guy from the outside, no, it's, I'm not telling you.
I would think that you'd be able to flag this road cannot be turned around and that doesn't put some.
Let's have this, I've never seen that thing.
Let's have Dennis and maybe talk to Liz, decide if she needs to come here, you can report back to us. And I think that another ask, around all of this topic. I think it's important for the community, regardless of what committee we have or don't have, what the principal plans are, to make sure that entry into the system is more smooth, right? We know we have transition plans with guidance counselors and things like that. What's that gonna look like for kids? How's lunch gonna look for kids? How's their cohort gonna look? Are they gonna be with more kids in? What are, I know we have goals and we've heard from families and parents. I'd like to hear what their plan is to get more children in the cafeteria together, more kids at recess together. Any way that we can departmentalize children. If there's any way we can look at, the possibility of enrichment that we were told was a possibility, is that possible? Things like that.
Yeah, we're working on getting the principals and they usually do a presentation before the end of the year. So we can,
That presentation is for what this year we're like, I'm looking for, I want to know. It doesn't have to be anything. We were, Carmen and Dr. Lou and I were talking about how can we kind of revamp the principals and their presentations so the community gets more of what they're looking for. So we're working on that. I'm not even haven't figured out a date, but as soon as we do, we will discuss with the principals and let the community know what nights will be due. Because that would be great, right? This is what happened this year, this is what worked well, next year, we need a plan.
have the kids that are transitioning been to their new school yet? Or do you know at what time they will be visiting?
I heard some.
I know that counselors have been to the school and social workers, psychologists have gone and principals have. I believe the dates are all set up because they were talking about it in my office yesterday. Amongst themselves, because they're setting up their transition plans.
We can certainly ask that at our meeting tomorrow.
I know they have them. I just don't know them off the top of my head.
Okay, it'd be nice to give parents that heads up, so they.
I hope they have, but I don't.
Yeah.
know.
Imagine.
Yeah, I don't know. No, not yet, apparently.
I think that parents just knowing when it's gonna happen,
Yeah.
how it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, and are there committees amongst the staff, like the teachers, who talk about transition plans like we had last year? Last year we had, they were like a transition team, right? Of staff that worked together on ideas to bring the kids together. Did that happen in this?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Last year there was a committee of staff that worked together on a transition plan, come up with different ideas. We had a field day, we had all these different, letter campaigns. Is there still that committee and is that?
Adding it to my agenda.
Yeah.
Is there a field day?
Yeah,
I thought I saw something.
Yeah, I already saw the dates flying back and forth. I know that the teachers have been working in their buildings with their grades on ideas both for, obviously through this whole year and for next year. May 15th is an early release day for K-8. And that, I believe, is the major focus of that day. And that will be not just, by the way, elementary, Lisa's shaking her head, thank you, Lisa. Not just for the internal, but also that's a big, it always has been a big day. It's a transition 5-6. So even with the middle school, the right teachers will be talking to the receiving teachers about what's going on. Yes.
We, a while ago, had a presentation where we talked about the benchmarks that we were going to use to measure the Princeton plan, and we came up with a bunch of metrics. Can we maybe have a presentation that goes over some of the preliminary internal measurements that have taken place and present to the community. I mean, we kind of got off topic from that. And I know we laid out metrics, and I know some of those metrics are available now. So I really think that the community deserves that presentation, so they can sit as well as that.
Well, the date was always before June 30th, so we just need to get it on the, agenda, on an agenda for June 30th.
So we're saying before June 30th.
That was our board goal, and we voted on in October.
So we're gonna shoot just for a meeting in here.
We've got 4 meetings left, so.
Yeah, no, we would do that, I'm just getting for you, we're in the middle of state testing, so people who get really great data, we got that one, so like, it will be on the agenda.
Okay. So we get preliminary meeting. I know we all get.
No, we don't get yet.
Yeah, but I know we
They
have Margaret.
won't have those forms.
That's what I mean, right.
That's not even a discussion point.
Oh, so you're saying you're gonna use other.
Well, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Stephanie, we were talking about the local benchmarks that we use,
Yes.
ELA and math, we're talking about attendance, behavior, referrals.
PTA involved.
Correct, that kind of thing, about social workers.
Things that you guys got, every else. Yeah.
Okay. So if I could say this, at our May meeting, could we just make sure we're on the same page with the list?
Yeah.
Because like some of the things you just brought up would not be things we would have access to. I don't have PTA attendance.
Our January 4th meeting, we just revisit those slides.
And I, but it doesn't mean we couldn't get it from the right person, and I don't even know if they keep track of that.
It should be in their minute.
So
The
if,
PTA is gonna be invited. We're inviting them.
so I think the 5 of us could like get on the same page with what we're looking to report on.
Yeah.
Okay.
I figure out the date. We're gonna invite the PTA staff as well. And in my mind, I'm thinking only invite the elementary school principals, we'll try to get the elementary PTA. And maybe they can handle that portion, and it doesn't even have to fall on your plates. And we're gonna hear from the middle school, high school. Yeah, exactly. And then we would ask that PTA to come on that night. So it's kind of like,
Good idea.
yeah. So we'll get that organized, and then we'll reach out to everybody. You will maybe hearing it here first. So.
The transition dates for Frank G to BV are in May and BV to Furnace Woods are also in May. I don't have the specific dates, but they're all set for May. So I'm sure the principals, after our meeting tomorrow, will send out their letters.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, great. Anything? Anybody else? No? All good? All right. All right. So our next meeting is next Wednesday, May 3rd. What are we doing? Next Wednesday, May 3rd, back at the high school at 7 p.m. Okay. Then we will close the meeting. Motion to close. On the